Picture this. It's 6:12 a.m. cold enough that your breath feels sharp inside your nose. Your driveway is dark. Your windows are fogged. The kind of morning that makes your bones complain before you even stand up. You step into your attached garage in socks. Concrete floor. That dry, dusty smell of storage boxes and old paint cans. Your car sits there like a frozen animal. You just want it warm. Just 5 minutes. Just enough heat so the steering wheel doesn't feel like metal punishment. You start the engine. The garage fills with that familiar low rumble. Not scary. Comforting, almost. A little pocket of I'm handling my life. You go back inside. You leave the door between the garage and the house cracked. Not wide open. Just not sealed. Because you're half asleep. Because it's cold. Because you've done this before and nothing happened. And nothing still feels wrong. That's the trap. Oh, hey there. I'm Expired, your host, caffeinated, clinically curious, and here to walk you through what carbon monoxide poisoning feels like when it slips into a normal morning and quietly starts deleting your ability to function. Today we're talking about carbon monoxide. The gas that doesn't smell like anything, doesn't sting your eyes, doesn't make smoke, doesn't announce itself. And that invisibility is exactly why it shows up in the statistics. In the U.S., unintentional carbon monoxide poisoning not linked to fires causes more than 400 deaths each year. It also drives over 100,000 emergency department visits annually and more than 14,000 hospitalizations. So this isn't a rare horror story. This is a repeatable accident. Now the mechanic. The reason this gas is so efficient at wrecking you. Carbon monoxide binds to hemoglobin, the oxygen-carrying molecule in your blood, about 200 to 250 times more tightly than oxygen does. Your blood is a delivery fleet. Oxygen is the cargo. Hemoglobin is the truck. Carbon monoxide is a fake shipment that hijacks the trucks and parks them in a locked garage. You can be breathing. Air can be moving in and out. And your organs can still be starving. That's the nightmare. Not drowning in water. Drowning in the absence of usable oxygen. While your lungs keep working like they're doing fine. Back to your morning. Your car is idling. Exhaust is pouring out. The garage is an enclosed box attached to the box you live in. And there's a tiny crack in the barrier between them. Carbon monoxide seeps through the crack like a quiet leak in a ship. It mixes into the air you're breathing in the hallway, then the kitchen, then the living room. And at first, your body doesn't scream. Your body doesn't even whisper. Because CO doesn't irritate your airways. It doesn't trigger the smoke alarms in your nose. It doesn't give you that instinctive recoil. You make coffee. You look at your phone. You stand there waiting for the kettle like waiting is your whole personality. The first thing you notice is not fear. It's a mild wrongness you blame on the morning itself. A dull headache behind the eyes. Like you slept with your forehead pressed against something. A tiny wave of nausea. Nothing dramatic. Nothing urgent. Your brain does what brains do. It picks the comforting explanation. Must be dehydration. Must be bad sleep. Must be stress. Must be the weather. And that's where carbon monoxide wins early. Because while you're telling yourself a story, the chemistry is happening anyway. More CO molecules are entering your lungs. More are crossing into your bloodstream. More are binding to hemoglobin. More trucks are getting hijacked. Your body tries to compensate. It may push your heart rate up a bit to move more blood. It may increase breathing slightly without you noticing. It's trying to deliver more oxygen using a delivery system that's being sabotaged. So you still function, just worse. You read a sentence twice. You forget why you opened the fridge. You stand in the kitchen holding your phone like it's supposed to explain what comes next. It's subtle enough that you don't respect it. It's subtle enough that you keep going. And your car is still running. Here's a number that belongs in your head. OSHA's permissible exposure limit for carbon monoxide is 50 parts per million averaged over an 8-hour shift. That's the line for this should not be normal for a workplace. And NIOSH sets the IDLH, immediately dangerous to life or health, at 1,200 ppm. That's the line for this can overwhelm you fast enough that you may not be able to rescue yourself. You don't know the number in your house. You don't have a meter in your hand. You just have sensations. And sensations are unreliable when the thing harming you is also harming your judgment. Your headache thickens. The nausea gets more convincing. You start to feel dizzy when you turn your head quickly, like the room is half a beat behind your movement. You might think you're coming down with something. That's a common misread. Your hands get clumsy. Not shaking, just slightly inaccurate. You set the mug down and it lands a little too hard. You bump your hip on the counter and get irritated at the counter like it planned this. Your brain is not getting the oxygen delivery it expects. And the first thing your brain loses isn't consciousness. It's precision. This is why carbon monoxide is so dangerous. It doesn't start by knocking you out. It starts by making you worse at noticing you're in danger. A real marker for this is carboxyhemoglobin, COHB. How much of your hemoglobin is carrying CO instead of oxygen? At around 10 to 20% COHB, people can experience symptoms like headache and mild nausea. Mild is doing a lot of work in that sentence, because mild can still be the beginning of a chain reaction. Your thoughts get slower. Your motivation drops. You stop wanting to do things that require effort. And that's where a tiny decision becomes a major fork. You decide to sit down. The couch looks good. The couch looks like a solution. You tell yourself you'll sit for a minute and let the headache pass. And sitting is the moment the room gets an advantage over you. Because once you sit, you move less. You breathe more shallowly. You stop doing the little unconscious movements that keep you alert. Your car is still running. CO is still entering the house. And you are getting more impaired. Now the experience starts feeling strange. Not terrifying. Strange. You feel heavy. Not tired like you stayed up late. Heavy like your limbs are wearing extra gravity. Your eyelids sag. Your attention narrows. Your phone screen seems too bright and too complicated. You can't remember what you were about to search. You may feel oddly calm. Not calm like, I'm fine. Calm like, my brain can't generate urgency properly right now. That's the hidden danger. Carbon monoxide steals urgency. Your breathing is still happening. You don't feel like you're choking. You don't feel like you're drowning. You feel like you're fading. And fading is easy to ignore. Fading feels like sleep. Your head tilts. Your body slumps into the couch. You close your eyes for a second. That second stretches. Now, from the outside, if someone walked into your house right now, they might think you're just exhausted, just sick, just sleeping. Your face could look pale. Your lips could lose some color. Your breathing could be slower than normal. But it doesn't look like a movie emergency. It looks like a person who needed rest. And that's the problem. CO poisoning can look ordinary while it becomes dangerous. Inside your body, oxygen delivery is dropping. Your brain is shedding load, like a power grid in a storm. First you lose sharp thinking, then coordination, then reliable awareness. Your thoughts fragment. Time distorts. You may drift in and out of shallow, weird sleep. You may have dreamlike flashes while you're technically awake. The room starts skipping frames. If you try to stand, your legs feel uncertain. Your balance doesn't cooperate. You might grab the arm of the couch and miss by an inch. Small errors that don't happen to you when you're normal. And this is where carbon monoxide earns its reputation. It doesn't just harm you. It reduces your ability to leave. Your car is still idling. The garage is still filling with exhaust. CO is still leaking through that cracked door. And your brain is no longer reliable enough to make the clean decision. Get outside. Instead, you negotiate. You bargain. You minimize. Just a headache. Just dizzy. I'll feel better in a minute. Those are not thoughts. They're the gas talking through you. We've covered the mechanics. Now let's talk about what it feels like as the line gets crossed. The moment where normal sleep stops being normal. Carbon monoxide doesn't usually give you a sharp, dramatic realization. It gives you a dimmer switch. Awareness lowers. Concentration narrows. Your inner voice gets quiet. And what replaces it is blankness with a soft edge. The body becomes heavy. The mind becomes simple. You may feel detached, like you're sitting a foot behind your eyes. You may hear sounds from the house as if they're coming from far away. You may have the sensation of floating. Not mystical, mechanical. This is what low oxygen delivery does to a brain. It changes the quality of consciousness before it removes consciousness. As exposure continues, you become unresponsive. Not in a I'm choosing to ignore you way. In a the system is no longer processing input correctly way. Breathing can become slow, shallow, irregular. Sometimes there's a faint snore or gurgle because the airway isn't held open cleanly. Your body is still trying, but it's trying with a sabotaged supply chain. If you had a carbon monoxide detector with working batteries, this is where it would be screaming. And that's not dramatic. That's the point. Detectors do what your body can't. They warn you before your brain gets too foggy to act. Without that warning, the room stays quiet. The car keeps running. CO continues binding hemoglobin with that 200 to 250 times advantage. And now we reach the fatal endpoint. Not with fireworks, with silence. Oxygen delivery drops far enough that the brain can't sustain function. Breathing can fail. Without oxygen delivery, the heart can't maintain stable rhythm for long. The body stops keeping up. From the outside, it can look like a person who simply didn't wake up. A normal house, a normal couch, a normal morning that turned irreversible because the air was wrong. Now the aftermath. Because carbon monoxide doesn't just end mornings. It leaves clues that people only recognize after the fact. Someone arrives and feels dizzy too. They step inside and their own head starts to throb. They open a door and suddenly the air feels lighter. They realize the car is still running. Emergency response moves fast when CO is suspected because fresh air matters immediately. High-flow oxygen matters because it speeds the removal of carbon monoxide from the body compared to breathing room air. The reversal window is real. The earlier you get out and get oxygen, the better the outcome. But the trap is that CO poisoning can make you too confused to save yourself. And survivors can have more than just, "I felt sick." CO exposure can leave lingering neurological effects in some cases because the brain is sensitive to oxygen deprivation. That's why those national numbers are so high. 400-plus deaths a year from unintentional non-fire CO poisoning in the U.S., 100,000-plus emergency visits, 1,400-plus hospitalizations. This is a problem that repeats because it feels like nothing until it feels like fatigue. And fatigue makes people lie down. So here's the clean takeaway, anchored to your exact morning. You ran a car in an attached garage. You left the door cracked. You trusted just 5 minutes. And carbon monoxide used that crack like a pipeline. Remember the numbers. 50 ppm is the workplace limit over a shift. 1,200 ppm is immediately dangerous to life or health. 200 to 250 times stronger binding to hemoglobin than oxygen. Carbon monoxide isn't a monster. It's chemistry and bad ventilation. It's a normal decision that becomes dangerous in the wrong setup. And the solution is boring on purpose. CO detectors with working batteries. Never running a car in an enclosed or attached garage, even for a minute. Respecting the fact that the air can be unsafe even when it feels normal. I'm expired. Still caffeinated. Still here to translate invisible hazards into a memory you can use before a quiet morning becomes a statistic.